Come get your victory at the table. Let's talk. Let's talk. Come get your victory at the table. Let's talk. Let's talk.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on whatever time you have decided to tune in with us. We would like to welcome you to another episode of Victory at the Table Talk, where we have down-to-earth conversations about various topics to assist with your walk with Christ. Here at the table, you can get the victory, but you can also get a taste of Victory Apostolic Church right here in Matteson, Illinois, where we are building victorious Christ-like lives. Enjoy this episode.
Praise the Lord. We have come together for another Victory at the Table Talk. I am Evangelist Stephanie Efford, and today we're going to talk about the awareness that is bringing forth now for June, which is Dementia and Alzheimer's. And today our title is The Longest Day. We have a couple of people here today, two of my sister friends, Sister Cynthia, and we have Evangelist. What's your name now?
Crystal.
See, that's how we play with each other. And plus one is her lovely husband, Ronald Rogers. So we're going to have a real frank, transparent discussion about dementia. So at times it may, we might get a little emotional. I'm just letting you know. Because when you start thinking back about what has happened to your family with this dreaded disease, it gets a little bit hard. So we're going to work through it, and we're going to try to give you some information that you can use so that you can recognize it, some tips on how to prevent it. Crystal's going to share some tips for caregivers that deal with it, and we're just going to share our story. So we're glad that you've joined us. So with that, let's get going. We are honoring those that have passed on and those that are dealing with this with our purple ribbons today.
Yes.
So in June, we hope that you take a day. I'll put it on Facebook on the Victory Health and Wellness Facebook page. If you haven't joined, please do so. And I'll pick a day in June where we all can just wear purple for that day. You can put on a ribbon, put on a shirt, put on anything, just so we can honor those that have suffered and are suffering today. Everybody knows someone that has had or is suffering from dementia.
Yes.
All right? So I'm going to just start with a couple of things, some facts about dementia. You know the quote that they say, the mind is a terrible thing to waste? Mm-hmm. Who says that? That's who? The United Negro College Fund? Isn't that their thing?
I think so. Yeah.
But see, they're talking about young people not wasting their mind. Because guess what? When you get older, sometimes your mind does get wasted, not by choice. So don't waste your mind when you're young, but when we get older, a couple of things happen to us. So let's go through what it is, how it happens, and then we're going to share our stories and our experiences as well. First of all, dementia is not a disease. Dementia is a name for a group of diseases, and it's categorized under dementia. All the time, doctors do not know the exact disease your parent, friends, or whoever has. They'll say they have dementia because it's scientific. I don't want to go into that. It's too technical. But I will tell you this, dementia is not a disease. So if the doctor says your parents or your grandparents have dementia, just let that go. Don't think it's Alzheimer's all the time, because it's not. That's special. So it's very common, but the common one we all know is Alzheimer's, right? Alzheimer's is one that really progresses very fast as you get older. So that diagnosis takes a lot of testing. So most of the time, they don't say you have Alzheimer's, okay? Now, the causes of dementia can vary. Some of them are from vascular dementia, which happens as a result of a stroke. It affects the nerve endings of the brain. That's why you wind up with dementia. That section of your brain loses memory. Okay. So another traumatic event that can happen to you is TBI, which is traumatic brain injury, which happens from sports. Football players, wrestlers, they wind up having TBI. Also, nutritional deficiencies like low vitamin B's and vitamin D. That's why it's so important, especially for us as African Americans, because guess what? We don't get a lot of vitamin D. I don't care how much I'm in the sun, I still don't get enough vitamin D. You have to take the supplement. So make sure you get your vitamin D and do your B12s and 6s and 1s. That's very important. The other part is poisoning from pesticides. You can get brain difficulty and memory loss from pesticides. You can get it from heavy metals. Okay, if someone's exposed to heavy metals, it can cause them to lose that. The other one is it can be caused by a brain tumor, but it's very rare that a brain tumor will cause dementia. And the last one that I'm going to mention, because that's what happened with my dad, is you can get it from Parkinson's. Parkinson's comes first, then the dementia. So those are some of the causes for dementias.
Good information.
Yes, ma'am. And so we're going to go into some of the symptoms, and we're going to then after that talk about your experience with it, Cynthia, and also Crystal, with the symptoms. Some of the symptoms are, we know, memory loss. Everybody knows memory loss is one of them, okay? You notice how they start forgetting things, like if they get a directive and they forget how to do it, or they start talking and forget they already talked about that. Didn't you just say that? You know, stuff like that. And then they can't always communicate with the right words.
Right.
They start getting confused. I'll talk about my daddy, how he used to do that. Then they might have problems with their vision, okay, and their speech. And then the other thing is a person with dementia should not be driving. At all, at all. And that's what happened with my dad. I'll tell that story. Difficulty reasoning or problem solving, they're not capable of doing that.
Right.
And they cannot do complex tasks. We so want our people to keep doing what they used to do, but we have to understand, when you get older, you start developing dementia, you're not the same person anymore. And it takes us to give them that TLC so that they can move on and live a healthy life as much as possible, because it is debilitating. Okay. Other thing is motor functions. They have a issue with coordinating their motor functions. And the last one is confusion and disorientation. That's very, very important. And so what we're going to do is have a discussion about some of your experiences with what happened to you, Crystal, some of the signs that you noticed with your mom, and Ronald with your mom, and how you kind of clued in on that something was going on with her. And I know in our discussion with both of you, we talked about how the doctor didn't say that they actually had it. It wasn't clearly diagnosed.
Right.
So can you share that with us?
Sure, and you gave a lot of good points about some of the things that we experienced. I thought about confusion.
Yes.
You know, they forget what day of the week it is. I remember with Mother, and I call my mother-in-law Mother. You know, she would go dress up to go to church, and she would go to the church, and she would say, that church, nobody's ever at the church, you know. And so that was one thing. She would go to the hairdresser, and she just sit in the parking lot, because she would go get her hair done every 2 weeks, okay? So she just sit in the parking lot on a Sunday. Of course, they're closed, things like that. She would get confused about, like when you said they're not able to have complex things that they can do. She was very independent before dementia. So here's age 90, where she is trying to figure out how to balance her bank book. And so we were with her that particular day. And she was in one spot for 8 hours.
Wow.
And I said, Ron, something is very, very seriously wrong. One thing that one of the signs that I knew, because she always traveled with us. We would travel. And Mother, we would take her with us. We would also take her to the family reunions and things like that. But on the way back, you know, of course, Ron is driving, and I'm sitting over on the passenger side, and she's sitting in the back. And it's just silence in the car. And so she's talking to all of her loved ones that are deceased, just like it was yesterday. And I'm kind of like, Ron, listen. And so once I did that and we paid attention, she knew we were paying attention, and she stopped. So I think she kind of knew that she was changing, but at the same time, they're not really able to, or not ready to admit.
Right. And then the other part of that is they really don't know what it is. You know, sometimes they'll say, I just can't remember. I know one of the mothers at one of my churches has it, and she'll ask my name. She said, she knows who I am. She'll say, what's your name, baby? I just can't remember. You know, I have a problem. She knows she's having a problem. And she'll say, I can't remember. What's your name? She calls me Marshall. And I'll tell her. So it kind of, some of them know they're losing their memory, and in other cases they don't. So that's how you kind of picked up on it was starting, right?
Yes.
And then for you, Cynthia, with your mom, what was occurring with her, some of the signs that you saw?
The first sign was, well, first of all, my mother was having problems with her hips at her house. So she had her own place, and she was used to taking care of herself. So she began to tell me, I can't take care of myself any longer. Can I come and stay with you? And so I said, sure, Mom, you can come and stay with me. About 2 months after that, I began to notice signs of her losing her memory, because my husband would constantly coming in and out the house doing something. And so she would say, what's the weather like outside? The first time he would answer and say, oh, Mom, it's nice out, or oh, Mom, it's this. Then she would keep saying, every time he went to the door, what's the weather like outside?
Yeah.
And my husband would look at me, and I would just say, it's nice outside, isn't it? And he would say, yes, it's nice outside, Mother, just like that. And so, and I also noticed I would have her sitting by the window, but she would always say, oh, it would be nice if I could go outside and see outside. I said, you want to go out, Mom? She said, no, not right now. And I'm thinking, you just said you wanted to go outside.
Right.
So, I began to notice things, and then she would, especially on a Sunday, she would want greens and chicken and cornbread. And I was like, Ma, you know I don't like cooking like that. Wow. So she would say, I'll help you cook. And I said, no, that's okay. One time she came in the kitchen to help me cook, and she was getting a glass of water. She had a half a glass of water, but the glass was turned over. I said, oh, Mom, you're wasting the water. She said, am I? I didn't even feel that. So she didn't even feel that the glass was turned upside down.
Yes. And that's when you know something's happening.
Yes.
And it's so important that they are around somebody that's seeing these things and hearing these things, because honestly, if they weren't around you, it would not be a nice thing. Yes. And at the onset of it, that's when it's the hardest, because you don't recognize it immediately. But certain things shouldn't be happening.
Right.
Yes.
Like with my aunt, I was sharing with Crystal before we started. She used to live near us. So me and the kids were out driving around, and my aunt was outside walking. We didn't think anything about it. We're thinking she just walking. And we just say, hey, hi, Aunt Dorothy. She waved at us. We thought she knew us. She was walking. You know how they get out the house and start walking. I did not recognize that. Then another time she called me, and she was complaining about stuff in her head was crawling and stuff like that. And so I believe that she was feeling something happening to her brain. And that's kind of rare that you notice that, but she did. And she made it clear. She could feel it. And so it just happens differently for everyone.
And it's something that you should talk about, something going on in her head. With my mother, she kept saying, am I bleeding? It's like I'm bleeding. It's coming all the way from my head to my legs. And I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? She said, I'm bleeding. I could just feel the blood coming out. I said, no, Ma, you're not bleeding.
Yeah, that's a hallucination. Now, they do have hallucinations. My dad, at the onset of his, had hallucinations. In the backyard, he saw these people like Martians, and he talked to them. But the funny thing is, I was there. The funny thing is, the next day he said, he called me back. He called me Sugar. He said, Sugar, remember I was telling you about those visitors I had yesterday? I'm like, you remember the visitors? So that was a little weird that he could remember what happened yesterday and that it was hallucination. Right. So it's just that everybody happens at different degrees, and his biggest thing was Parkinson's, though. So moving forward, we know now that there are signs. There are always signs. No one just gets dementia out the clear blue sky and you don't see a sign, right? We all agree on that? Okay, so we all agree. So let's talk about some of the psychological changes that occur, okay? Sometimes they go through personality changes. Don't y'all know about that personality change
Ron
thing?
could tell you
Ron, you
about
want to
that
talk
real
about
good.
that? I'm going to tell all the psychological changes. And Ron, we're going to let you talk. Okay, sometimes they go through depression. Okay, anxiety,
Yes.
inappropriate behavior. I think all of us can attest to that. We didn't have to deal with the inappropriate behavior. And what that means is they start, getting involved in sex and doing stuff like that. We didn't have to deal with that.
No, we didn't
So
deal
that's
with
a
that.
blessing. Praise the Lord. Right. They become paranoid. They have paranoia.
Yeah,
Easily agitated. We know about that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the hallucinations. So, Ron, I'm going to let you talk about your experience with your mom and what happened with these psychological changes.
My psychological changes are hers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What was her psychological?
Right. He knows.
Yeah, we went to Arizona, and when we came back, we noticed changes in her because we would be there in regular conversation, and Mom would just go into space with her conversation, and I didn't want to make her feel bad. I'd kind of look at Crystal and say, "Babe, what did she just say?" And then we started noticing that my wonderful wife noticed things first.
Yes.
But then I started looking at it, and I would sometimes, when we got back, she would go to her house, and we went to our house, and then I'd go down to Mom's and cut the grass, every week and so forth, and have dinner with her and everything. And then sometimes she would go to the bank, and I get in the car and ride with her. And we were going down this street one day, and there was a cat in the middle of the street about a block up.
Yeah.
And she starts screaming at the cat, "Get out of the way, move, get out of the way," and blowing the horn. And I'm not trying to embarrass my mother, but I looked out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, okay. And then when she's always been a interesting driver. I don't want to get in trouble. But she would pull up to the stop sign and jam on the brakes. And if someone was 2 seconds in front of her, "Move, get out of the way, move." And I'm thinking, okay, Mom is a little different today. And then that went on for our ride to the bank. It's about a 15-minute ride. And I tell you, my last 2.5 years at UPS, I was a tractor trainer. I taught rookies how to drive for UPS. 2.5 years, never broke a sweat, didn't bother me at all. And people could, they do crazy things in tractors and trailers, but they didn't bother me. But in that 15-minute drive, in the back of my mind, I told myself, I said, when I get to the next traffic light and she stops this car, I'm getting out, and I'll either walk back home or I'll call Crystal and have her come pick me up. That woman frightened me.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to pay attention to.
Yes.
Because these little signs, especially one thing that we always think is only memory loss. It's more than just memory loss.
Yeah.
It's a group of different situations that symptoms that pop up that we have to, first of all, be educated, understand what it is,
Yes.
and then remember what to look for. Because at some point, things are going to really change, and you have to be prepared for it.
Yes.
So we talked about signs. Now, some of the things that I know you, I don't know who experienced it, but care, nutrition, how did that work for you all? Did her eating habits change? I know you had some issues with security, some
Yeah.
things you had to do around the house.
Yes, that's my department. We moved to this house in 1962. We moved from the city out to where we live now. And when we came back from Arizona, as I said, we noticed changes. And so I talked to my wife here and I said, we're going to have to do something. So my wife, God bless her, she said, well, she can't live alone. So we're going to have to move in. 'Cause I was blessed with a quad level home. And you really couldn't secure the home, the doors and things. And
Yes.
15 steps to the lower level,
Yes.
ceramic floor, and I did not want to come home and see my mom's brains all over the floor. So we gave up our house and moved in with her.
Okay.
And that was 24/7 for 5 years.
Yes.
And so we just, you have to do what you have to do.
Right. And I know Crystal,
the
thanks for
security.
sharing that, Ron.
Yes.
I know Crystal has shared with me previously some of the things you had to do around the house.
Yeah, Ron had, you know, because she was changing and she wasn't able to do the normal
Right.
preparation for meals and things she thought she could. So we had to do like you do a baby. You had to put a gate up so
Right.
she couldn't go in the kitchen unless we allowed her. He had
Yes.
to put locks on every cabinet,
Right.
on the refrigerator, because she, in her mind, is thinking, I can still perform these duties.
Yes.
And sanitation was a problem because at some point, as you said, they will start changing and it's going to increase, so to speak.
Yes.
And I read up on that because I wanted to know the different stages of
Yes.
dementia.
Yes.
And it was like 7, and I saw her go through all of those stages.
Yes.
So those were some things that we did. Now, I think you mentioned nutrition.
Yes.
She ate good. She never stopped eating.
No,
Even the
she
last
didn't.
day that she was with us here, you know, and she died right there with us, and we praying, and she was received to glory. But she had a good meal.
That's
You
good.
know, she ate. That was never a problem for her. Her weight was not good because it's something with the metabolism. I don't
Yes.
know if you have the science on that or
Yes.
but anyway, their metabolism can work so well that they won't gain weight,
Right.
even if they're eating.
Yes, that's what happened to Dad. He lost a lot of weight, and he was eating until towards the last, I would say when I put him in hospice, he was diabetic. So with the diabetes, it was a little bit harder. I had to actually place him in a nursing home at that point because he had diabetes and he had lost from the Parkinson's, he had lost muscle control. So I couldn't handle him as far as getting him sitting up. And I know somebody could have came in the house, but that was not going to happen because he was not having it. I tried that before. Daddy was like, we're not doing this. So I didn't want him upset, you know. So when I did place him in the nursing home, I'm going to say this to everyone. If you have to put a family member in the nursing home, please make sure you go visit
You
them
have to check on
every
'em.
single day.
You have to
and
check
don't
on
go
'em.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Go at
Yeah.
different times. They
Right.
don't know when you're coming. So if you have to get it to that point, because sometimes it becomes too stressful for you as caregivers.
Yes.
So we want to remember to take care of ourselves, correct?
Yes.
All right. So assistance from others. How did that go? How did their family help you out?
Yes, family helped us out. His oldest son, our oldest son, Mark, and his wife, that he would actually take his vacation.
Yes.
He said, Dad, when you and Crystal want to go on vacation. And he'd take his vacation when we wanted to go on vacation.
Okay.
And, you know, he's been at the railroad for years, so he could do that. And they would take Mom. And then they would always also take her during the time just to give us like maybe every other month on the
Yes.
weekend.
Yes.
Then I had my sisters because we dealt with this at least 4 years. They would do it as well, but my sister say, "Okay, I can't do this no more, Crystal."
It's a lot.
Because
It's a lot.
you know, Mother was an exit seeker, and an exit
Yes.
seeker
Yes.
is one that is
Yes.
always trying to get out.
Yes.
And Mother would fight. Mother would, you know, that's one of the personality things the psychological thing that went
Yes.
with her.
Yes.
She never cursed, but she always cursed during dementia. And so she would curse my sisters and say horrible things to them, and she would fight, and we got injuries
Yes.
from the fight.
Oh, wow.
And all of this is
I have
because of the
souvenirs
dementia.
on
Yes,
my
yeah,
arm.
yeah.
Because the
My
mind
mom
is not
scratching.
functioning properly.
Right.
They become uninhibited.
Yes.
Because anything can go. Now, thank God it wasn't worse than that. You know, it could have been worse. Now, with my dad was security. I had those security doors on everywhere. I mean, the garage door, the front door, the back door. So what I did, just for safety's sake, I put the key where he would never think to look for it. He couldn't get out he can unlock the door on the inside, but he couldn't get out that second door.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. So you have to do whatever you have to do to keep them
secure them.
safe.
Yeah.
Because when I hear on the news about people walking outside and they can't find their father or mother or grandparent, when they have dementia, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they don't know where they are. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
You don't know if you're going to see them again. So please make sure you secure your homes.
And follow those signs, as you said, because we don't know when that shift is going to
That's the thing right there, Crystal. Thanks for saying that.
And
Because
with security, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
With security with me, I didn't have to worry about security so much, because if I would let my mother sit on the couch, her favorite spot, no matter what I was doing, if I went out in the yard, had my husband watch her and go to the store, she would not move. She was like a
content.
little
Now,
kid.
that's unusual.
She would not
Right.
move at all.
That's
I would
good.
come back,
Yeah,
I would
count
say,
your blessings.
I would come back and I would say, Mom, did you go to the washroom? She was like, no, I was waiting for you to come back. And that kind of made me,
that's good.
you know, teary-eyed, because it was like she was afraid to move if I wasn't around her.
And you know, it takes a lot of love to be able to care for your family members and go through this, because it's a lot. So the last part is stress. What impact did the stress of handling that have on you? I see Ron laughing. Have on you taking care? I'll start with you this time, Cynthia.
It was very stressful. She belonged to a church on the west side, and I would always say, Mom, come on, come and go to church with me. She always had a reason why she couldn't come to Victory. I think it was because she wanted to be at her church, her pastor's church. And so I would tell her, I said, Mom, I can't take you all the way to the west side to church because I have to go to church. You know, you can go with me and you're going to love it. So she came here once, and she really liked it. She talked about the pastor, how she enjoyed it.
Yes.
But I couldn't get her to come. Each Saturday, I would have her clothes laid out and everything. She said, I'm going to go to church with you. Do you go to Sunday school? I said, yes, Mother. She said, I'm going to go with you. The next day, she said, oh, I don't think I'm going to church today. She said, you go ahead. So that was very stressful for me, because I know, and it was nothing against my husband, but my mother didn't want a man around her to take care of her.
Right.
She only wanted
understand
me
that.
or my niece to take care of her.
Yeah.
So that put me in a stressful situation because I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. And then for you guys, the stress, Ronald, I know you talked about that before.
Yes. In the beginning, well, like you said, the language changed.
Yes.
And Mom, I'm telling you the truth, she didn't use profanity before, but then she just, it looks like she was inventing words, and especially with my wife here. And I would, not get in her face, but, this is my wife. And my first wife, she went to be home with the Lord after 23 years of marriage. And I said, look, this is my wife. I love her. She's here. She's sacrificing her life for you.
Yes.
You will not talk to my wife like that.
Did she stop? Got worse?
Yeah, Lord. I told my mom one day, because it just kept going and going. And I told her one day, I said, Mom, listen, if you want to have a cursing contest,
Oh, Lord.
you're going to lose. I have been in the service. I was a Teamster, truck driver for 30 years. I've had martial arts training. Mom, do you really want to start a cussing contest? Not cursing, cussing contest. And she would just look at me, But it got to the point to where I would be at the bottom of my rope. I'm telling you, and they say you get to the bottom of your rope, tie a knot in it, and hang on. The knot didn't hold.
Yes. But you were okay, though, in the long run, but it still was hard for both of you, right?
It was hard.
It was
like
hard.
he was saying, that depression, Ron would, for 1 year, a whole year, he would have to cry for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
He
and
had
that's
to take
okay.
that break. And I was, and I had to get used to that because
Right.
it was what he was going to see his mom deteriorate that way.
That's the
and
hard
even
part.
though, he's talking about the cursing contest, and I'm like, honey,
We
she
didn't
doesn't-
have it,
But
though.
the thing
We didn't
about
have a
it,
cursing
they don't
contest.
know. And that's why she's looking at you, because they don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
One thing I
Exactly.
said to Mother, I said, Mom, why, Mother, I'm trying to help you and take care of you. I do this every day. Why are you so mean to me? And this is what she did, just like a little kid. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
so we
that's the
understand.
disease.
Yes, we understand that you're going to be stressed because they're
Yes.
stressing you. It's just the honest. That's the honest truth. So for you though, Crystal, I want you to share some tips that we can give our audience today about caregivers and how they're going to handle a person that has dementia. Okay? Because there are certain things you have to do a certain way, or you should do a certain way.
Yeah, I was thinking about one thing is when they are not eating and they won't eat whatever you set before them, but they might want sweets. It's okay to give them those sweets, okay, because you just want them to have something. It's not like to give them overly sweets, but give them some things that you normally wouldn't give them. Another thing is repeating. Don't repeat to them.
Right.
Don't say didn't you just you just said that.
Okay.
Things, if they want to assist with something, let them try to assist you. You're going to be the supervisor, but let them help with the housework. I promise you, when Mother did it, it was like, oh God, she had a mop of water and all the water all over the place. She hurt herself and everything, but we just supervise that. Let them feel somewhat independent, so that, you know, that they won't be feeling so depressed in what they're going through.
Right.
Enjoy things that they like to do. Mother liked to shop. Take her shopping.
Right.
We went to the gym. She likes social, and at the Matteson gym they had the round table, and so she would sit there and just look at all the people, and she loved that.
Okay, that's
and so
good.
while I was working out, Ron was sitting there, he watching her, and you know, those kind of things. Familiarize yourself with the disease.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Get a support group. You know, we had to do that. Encourage them by letting them know, you know, that they're okay even when they mess up, because Mother had the, you know, she became for the bathroom incompetent with that.
Right, my dad too.
Yeah, and so, you know, it was a struggle there at first, but we both did it. We both had to bathe her and things like that.
Right.
So, those are some of the things that I'd like to share. I hope that helps.
Thanks for sharing that. So I would like to encourage everyone to become familiar with what dementia is. You know, it's so much online that we can research and find out for ourselves. There's no excuse today. Back in the day, they didn't have all this information, so they had to go by what they learned, because the doctor is not going to be able to diagnose everything all the time. And half the time, they didn't go to doctors back in the day. So you just had to rely on yourself and your instincts. So what I'm going to do in wrapping up right now, ways to prevent it quickly is basically take care of yourself. Okay, eat properly, exercise really helps with that brain function, keep that high blood pressure down, keep diabetes down, watch your numbers. All of those things come into play. We think they don't. If you could just watch your numbers on everything, your A1C, your cholesterol, and your high blood pressure, and get it under control, that affects your whole body. And your brain, remember, the brain comes from the blood, artery comes all the way up to the brain. So if you messing up your heart here and all that stuff is getting in there, it's traveling to the brain. Take care of your body, you'll take care of your brain, okay, and your mind, and maintain a healthy diet. So, and get your sleep. That's another thing. Sometimes we can't rest. I've learned to turn my phone off. If I go back to sleep, turn the phone off so you can get your rest. Okay. For more information, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to give you some information. If you want more information about Alzheimer's, please go to alz.org and go to the mayoclinic.org and some other sites if you want more information about dementia. But keep in mind, dementia is not a disease. In closing, I want to mention a couple of things. We want to remember we're wearing these ribbons, of course, in memory of our family members. My dad, his name was Stephen F. Cynthia, your mom?
Charity Gates Young.
Crystal?
Eloise Howard.
Yes, and then we want to keep those that are going through right now. I know Pastor's mom, Mother Singleton, we want to keep her lifted in prayer. A friend of mine, Brenda Hicks, her Reverend Hicks in prayer, and also Linda Perry, her father, in prayer. And I know there's others. We just want to let you all know that we are praying for you. We want to ask that you continue to have faith and continue to pray, because that's where your strength is going to come from. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Amen.
Because sometimes you just can't do it. So with that being said, Facebook page, Health and Wellness Facebook page. Please, if you have not signed up for it, go to Victory's Health and Wellness Facebook page and sign up. Be encouraged, be empowered, be educated,
Amen.
and be well.
Amen.
This was another Victory at the Table. Health and Wellness Ministry podcast. Stay tuned for our next one, which is coming up in July. This one is the longest day.
Yes.
Just remember that sometimes it is a long. It never ends. It never ends. But then we lose them. So always be as close to your family as you can when you're going through this situation.
Amen.
Because they need to know that love. They can still feel the love, even though they're acting up. They still feel the love. With that being said, God bless you. Amen.
Amen.
Praise God.
Bye, everyone.
Amen.
Come get your victory at the table. Let's talk. Let's talk. Come get your victory.